Hello everybody, it's your favorite Globetard here, and we're talking about more arguments for the flat Earth. Now, this comes from a couple of videos from the same guy, and I'm actually going to read the video out to you, because the original video contains copyrighted music, and I want this ad revenue going to me. So, here's that. The Earth, set to spin eastward at a speed of 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator. So then how's the plane able to fly eastward at half that speed and reach its destination in more or less the same time as the return flight, when in fact the plane should never reach its eastward destination before it comes rushing up behind it? And how's it even remotely possible to safely land an aircraft on a runway moving at such a speed? I shouldn't have to mention that it would be disastrously impossible. You're looking at this from the wrong frame of reference. Yeah, from an outside perspective, or inertial frame of reference, we are moving at 1,000 miles per hour, or about 1,600 kilometers an hour on the equator. But from our point of view, from our frame of reference, we move with the ground. We experience motion relative to the ground. If we fly eastward at 800 kilometers an hour, that's 800 kilometers an hour east of where you started. When you took off, the ground and air were moving, and you were moving relative to that. Same thing for landing. You don't stop moving relative to the ground just because you're in the air. The air moves too. We can discuss rotational speeds all day, while some claim that Earth's atmosphere is velcroed tightly to the Earth's surface by gravity, despite no protection from the infinite vacuum supposedly surrounding it. Except gravity. Gravity is what keeps the atmosphere held down. Now, I mentioned this briefly in a previous video, saying only that that's not how vacuums work. But to elaborate, vacuums themselves don't suck or pull air, but instead, if there's a vacuum, if there's some empty space in the middle of air, then the air around it would push itself into the empty space, due to pressure in order to reach hydrostatic equilibrium. It's all about the difference in pressure. Well, that still kinda begs the question. How does the atmosphere stay here and not escape into the partial vacuum of space? If the atmosphere is a higher pressure than the vacuum surrounding it, then isn't the atmosphere trying to push itself out into space? Well, yeah. Yeah, it is. That's not the only force, though. There's another force that keeps it down, that keeps it in, that keeps it close to the Earth. Gravity. Mass attracts mass, and the air does have mass. So the Earth and the air are attracted to each other with a force that, for the most part, keeps our atmosphere in place. But the one fact against the ball Earth model is that for the average commercial flight flying at 800 kilometers per hour, pilots would have to course correct at a descending rate of 850 meters per minute in order to follow the curvature of the Earth. Failure to do so would result in a 50,000 meter gain in altitude in just the first hour. In reality, once a plane reaches cruising altitude, all controls level out at a maintained level until descent for landing. No, actually, they wouldn't have to do that, and that's because there's actually a force out there which pulls the plane down. It's called gravity. The controls level out to keep the plane at a constant elevation, not to keep it in a perfectly straight line. It would make no sense to design a plane that stays at a perfectly straight line just to have the pilot constantly directing it downwards. For those of you who know how orbits work, which you probably don't if you think the Earth is flat, the same concept applies. No matter where you go on our vast Earth, the horizon will always appear a perfectly level line 360 degrees all around you. This is true regardless of altitude. In fact, as you gain altitude, the horizon appears to maintain its height at eye level, despite the ground receding beneath you into the distance. If the Earth were in fact a ball, then as you rose up, the horizon would appear to descend beneath you, appearing as a circle, getting smaller progressively as you rose up. In reality, the horizon is always at eye level no matter how high you go, which really only indicates one thing: an outstretched plane. The Earth is flat, and we've all been had. This is a common argument by flat earthers that the horizon stays perfectly flat and at the same level regardless of elevation. And it's wrong. The horizon actually does fall as you go higher. But the problem here is a concept that these conspiracy theorists don't seem to grasp. The Earth is huge. It's massive. It's so big that you can't really tell how little the horizon drops. With the naked eye, you can't really tell if you're looking straight ahead or a couple of degrees downward. But there is some precise equipment that we can use to measure it, like a theodolite, or to some extent, an app on your phone. And when we measure it this way, we do see that the horizon indeed does drop. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. Sorry if it was short, I was kind of pressed for time. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed. And by the way, did you know that I have a merch store where you can buy t-shirts, you can buy a mug, you can buy, I don't know, buttons, and baby bibs? This is my personal favorite out of like everything in my store. Links to that, as well as other ways to support me, in the description down below. Anything is appreciated. Hell, even if you're a fan of mine, I appreciate that. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Dun, 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 dun. Au revoir.